Hi, I'm Ashley Sorensen,
I'm Jennifer Walker.
and we are therapists at Psyche and Soma Psychotherapy in Fullerton, California. And today we're here because we wanted to talk about individuality, authenticity, and therapist development in our practice. So Jen is one of our amazing therapists at Psyche and Soma, and she is currently training to become an ASEC certified sex therapist. She works with the LGBTQ communities and all things sex and sexuality. So she loves working with things around that are considered taboo.
Just things you don't normally talk about.
Yeah. And that's something that's really important to us in our work, is being able to go to certain places with our clients that they can't talk about in their regular day-to-day lives. So we're so happy that she is with us, and I'll say a little bit about myself, I guess. I am a trauma specialist, and I work with young adults who have survived childhood emotional abuse and neglect and trauma. And I also support young adults in their individuation process, so shifting from their family values to finding their own way while maintaining connection and community. So we're here today to talk about some fun things. Let's see, so Jen and I met a little over 5 years ago. Yeah, when we were studying for our licensing exam.
Yep. We were still interns.
We met on the internet, and
we met through a Facebook group for therapists.
Yeah, and we noticed each other's orange hair in our pictures, so we connected right away. And I don't remember if you reached out to me first or if I reached out to you.
I think I might have messaged you because I'm like, this is just different, like, you know. And then just by chance you happen to live pretty close by, because some of those groups, like, people are from all over, so it was just by chance that you were like in like the local area. So
it was meant to be.
I know.
So we had our first study date, I think, at the library.
Yeah.
And we took our first exam around the same time. I don't think on the same day.
No, we did.
Oh, on the same day. Yeah. On the same day, we took our second one on the same day.
Oh, okay. I forget that there were two now. That's how much I blanked it out. But yeah, the second one we took on the same day for sure. I don't know about the first one.
So we became licensed therapists on the same day. So we have a special bond, which I love. And yeah, so I think we really connected over our hair color first.
Yeah,
and
I mean, that kind of stood out to me, I guess, because I feel like that's kind of stood out in general, like being a therapist. So then it was interesting that somebody had like almost like the same range of color and everything. So there was probably just like sort of like an understanding of that in a sense, you know.
Yeah, so we both, like I mentioned, or I think I mentioned, we both really value self-expression and authenticity, and we strive, it's been a process for us, so we wanted to spend some time talking about our own development as therapists, from like starting out in grad school, what the therapy world is like, and how we've kind of sort of found our way. It's an ongoing process, but how we've kind of found our way through all that. So I'm just thinking about like when I first started grad school and how I was really trying to fit into the mold of being the therapist, my version of what a therapist should look like.
Yeah. And then like the standard that you picture is like this like old stuffy white guy or whatever, I guess, because Freud, I don't know, but
or like wearing a cardigan or a scarf and slip-on flats, and I did all that in my early 20s, and I didn't have my hair colored. I was trying to fit in with everybody, and it didn't feel right to me, but I did that for a while. And you know, being a therapist is what I'm really passionate about, so I wanted to do whatever it took to be successful, whatever that looks like.
Honestly, I think you get messages that that's what you're supposed to do. Maybe not directly, but kind of, because, you know, like the more traditional models talk about being a blank slate, and so like if you have bright orange hair, that's not really a blank slate.
No.
So it's kind of challenging to navigate that, because I feel like it got emphasized a lot in school, that like you shouldn't like have anything that is gonna like just, I don't know, bring up something for them, which I don't know, to me it's like something's gonna bring up some, like, even like the standard therapist brings up like assumptions about that too.
Right.
So
And I think like as therapists, we're part of our job is to allow space for our clients to project or to
Yeah.
bring stuff up on, put stuff on us.
like you
And-
can project, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like it's just being able to talk about it and explore it.
Right.
We can't avoid the projection.
No,
you know?
no, and we shouldn't.
Yeah.
We shouldn't. It's really important to make that space for our clients to share whatever feelings, thoughts are coming up, fantasies that they're wondering about us, and that we handle that appropriately and therapeutically. But yeah, it's unavoidable.
Yeah, but it was really hard because like this is kind of, I feel like this is a part of me, like you said,
Mhm.
self-expression. I am a more introverted person, so I'm not like very loud, but I just feel like my style or something just kind of speaks for itself maybe. I don't know, like I just think that I allow it to be that way.
You have these nonverbal cues that say some things.
And I remember, so I tried seeing a therapist while I was in school because it was really stressful. And that person like made a few statements that implied that like this kind of wasn't necessarily okay. Like she basically said that it was sort of it's more of a, what was the wording, like traditional kind of field, like it's not cosmetology or something like that. Like I think she even said something like that. Or she asked me, well, what is this style? Is this like emo or something? I'm like, I don't have a label. Like it's just,
You're past that. You're not in high school anymore.
Well, anyways, obviously I felt very judged. I didn't end up going back and stuff like that. But I had that in my head for a while that I have to change.
Yeah.
Like I think I did something similar with you. I didn't necessarily just change. I mean, I darkened the hair color. That's what I always end up doing when I try to fit in. Is like I try to darken it.
Tone it down.
Every time I do it, I regret it. I hate the way it feels. I wherever I'm at when that happens, like it never ends up being a good place anyways. Like it just, to me, it just tells me like I need to just be myself, and that's what I'm gonna gravitate towards things that are gonna align with me.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of where I'm at with it. Like it's like I don't see the point in changing it at this point unless I want to.
Unless you want to. Yeah. Unless you want natural color.
Yeah, unless I feel like
that's
it.
totally
Not 'cause
fine.
you tell me what to do.
Yeah.
So.
But there's something about like doing things that feel aligned to your values as a therapist that helps you show up, helps us all show up better for our clients and help them unfold into their authenticity, whatever that looks like. They don't have to go dyeing their hair, and this isn't about hair color.
Yeah.
But it's the obvious.
It's just a symbol of like what we're trying to talk about.
Yeah.
You know.
What would you say kind of helped you shift? Because you got these messages from that therapist and throughout school. What helped you, like, kind of gave you some permission to just do it, to just...
I don't know, because even though I would get like those kinds of messages, some peers and just people around me seemed to really like it. Or I even, I worked with older adults when I first started out, and like you would think that like, they wouldn't be into it, but they were like super into it. Like, so I think just me showing up and just kind of being myself, they felt comfortable too. And so I think I just kept going with that like, well, that feels better. And then I kept, kind of just thinking like, there are going to be people that don't like whatever, and that's fine, because there's so many different styles and different types of therapists, and I can't be somebody for everybody. So like if I'm drawing somebody, then that's a good thing. If not, then that's okay too. Like I don't have to be everything for everybody.
That's so important to remember. And even like I've gotten a lot of comments, especially when I worked with teens more. Parents would say like, I found you, I saw your hair color, I think you'd be a really good fit in working with my kid. Which I liked. I was like, okay, there's something about me that people appreciate or like, and it's maybe giving them some permission to be themselves as well.
Yeah.
But then like I've also had people who were drawn to that I looked a little different or had colored hair, and I wasn't the best therapist for them. My therapy style is a little more laid back. I'm introverted. I've had to develop my extrovertedness a little bit over time. but I think it's not, again, not just about the looks, but how you are in the therapy room with your clients.
Yeah, like your general style, how you approach therapy as a person,
Yeah.
you know, not just how you look. Yeah, so I mean, you can attract somebody by how you look, but then you're gonna have to see if you guys mesh well too.
Right.
And sometimes you don't. And again, you know,
No,
that's
it's
okay
okay.
too, because like I don't think I'm super direct either. But yeah, I mean, how did you feel like you kind of like how did you like kind of gather your style over time, like your approach, you know?
As far as like my therapy style and approach, I think just again with academic training, formal training, I really liked my graduate program. But then when I was an intern or now they're associates, but when I was an intern, gathering my hours, I worked in settings where, I worked in some settings where individuality wasn't really valued. I remember I had one supervisor and I needed to talk about some countertransference or feelings I was having in my work with the client. And she told me, don't worry about that. You care too much. Don't even think about that. Don't worry about that. And for me, like, paying attention to what's going on in me when I'm working with clients is really something I value, and I want space to talk about that with colleagues or a supervisor, and that was like shut down. So it wasn't, that's when I learned it wasn't allowed in the workplace, so I found other ways to get that need met. My own therapy, consultation, doing trainings outside that really interested me in more like depth-oriented and body-based practices. I think it was just about me knowing what I needed and finding other ways to get that need met.
Yeah.
Like it couldn't come from the supervisor or a particular setting.
Yeah.
But I could find it elsewhere.
It's sort of like you start to notice like what feels good and what doesn't, I guess. Like what feels comfortable or feels like, or something that you're drawn to or more passionate about, you know. And I think, you know, sometimes we get kind of like starting out, we are kind of told, depending on where you work, right? Like certain work settings, I think prioritize like CBT and things like that, which is fine, but I don't know that that's going to be everybody's style or approach either. And if it's not something that you're passionate about, that's going to come across with the client. So you kind of have to pay attention to whether it feels good when you're using it too.
Yeah. And also to be mindful of how our clients are receiving our approach. Again, that goes back to what you were saying earlier, like we aren't going to be the right fit for every single client.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had some people where it's like they wanted like really, really direct, and I'm like, I mean,
you can do your best, but we all have limitations.
Yeah, and like, you know, I just kind of talk about that, and it's like we can see how this goes, and if it ends up, my style ends up like going okay, then that's great. But if not, then you know they may need somebody that is a little bit more like direct.
And I think that's also honoring the client's individuation process by them saying what they need, helping them figure out a way to get that need met. If it can't be with you or me, then helping them find someone who has an approach that's more their style. Yeah, because that's an important piece, is that we can be open to feedback from our clients about how we show up with them.
Yeah.
And working with that, using that as part of the therapeutic process, or helping them find someone who's a better fit.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately the goal is just to make sure that they're with somebody that they feel like comfortable, that they feel like they can be their authentic selves. And you know, again, it just kind of goes back to like, you know, we can't be like somebody for everybody, you know. And so, and it's not personal, it's just, you know, everybody's different. There's all kinds of different types of people, and that's what makes things interesting, I guess.
Exactly. And again, that goes back to what we appreciate is diversity, and you know, we don't need to be robots. We're all human, we're all complex, and we have similarities too, but everyone can just do their own thing and be their own person.
Yeah.
I love seeing, I think one of my favorite things is when I'm working with a client and you know, they're really struggling with like honoring their families and kind of doing what they've learned their whole entire lives, and really wrestling with like, what, I know there's something more and I don't know how to go about that. I don't know how to develop my own values or my own needs, get my own needs met, and how do you like kind of find that balance between maintaining connection with loved ones and or breaking away from them if you need to, and also being your own person, you know,
it's like experimenting with your identity too. You know, because,
playing around with it.
You know, there can be like expectations that come from family without even them knowing, you know, like even like just generationally sometimes there's expectations too, and so there's
unspoken.
There's a lot of like kind of baggage or heaviness sometimes, and so having a space where you can play with and like kind of just explore different parts of yourself that maybe you don't have a space to do that within your family or somewhere else, it helps you kind of develop just like you as a whole rounded person.
And even if you can do that in like that 50 minutes you have with your therapist, that can start planting some seeds for some more growth, more development to start happening. Even if it can't be done like in the current situation you're in, current family or people in your lives.
Just being able to have that outlet, I think, can be really like powerful. You know, I've been with clients, and like sometimes like a lot of the sessions have been just like I'm basically saying like it's okay for you to do or be whatever you want, and I don't know, it's pretty powerful to see how much they expand after that. It's really and it's cool to see too, you know. I like being, you know, part of that process.
And I think kind of a different part of that is when we're experimenting and playing around with identity and values and individual growth. I think a lot of time, I can speak from personal experience, there's this fear that, well, if I am my true self, or if I'm sticking to what's right for my soul, like people aren't gonna like that. And that's true, like not everybody's gonna like everything we do or how we show up. But it's surprising how much people appreciate authenticity and genuineness.
You know, that's the purpose really of me wanting to be authentic in sessions, is like if I'm showing up that way, then I feel like it gives like an openness for the client to do the same. Like I think if I try and hide behind something or try and portray something that I'm not, like somebody's gonna pick up on that, and they're not gonna feel like they can trust to be vulnerable. You know, it's like I have to be able to just be myself so that they can too, and that's really like the purpose of, that's really what motivated me to just kind of stick to I guess what I wanted to do.
But there's, as you talk about it, there's like a fullness there. Like when you show up authentically, if you bring some fullness into the session, I think all of us, we have had the experience of living life behind a mask, behind, you know, in a mold, confined, and that's just shitty. That sucks.
And like you can still be authentic and still be ethical and still, you know, maintain boundaries and everything like that. You know, like it's not like you need to like sit there and like let me tell you about my day. Like you're not doing that, but you're just being there like as yourself. And I don't know how else to explain that, but just without that mask per se, and they're gonna pick up on that. So then they can put theirs down too.
And I'm thinking like again about early therapist development, like as we're learning the foundations of how to be a therapist, what it means to be a therapist, I think like we kind of have to follow some kind of guideline because we're just starting out. So for any new therapists that are watching this, like it's okay to like build your foundation, but then down the road it's also okay to
kind of branch out.
Branch out. It's great to branch out. So
I mean, I love templates and things to follow. So, you know, and I do that in the beginning with things like, because it's reassuring. But like at a certain point, it's like once you have that down, then you can branch out and start trusting yourself more.
It goes back to like even as we're starting to work with clients in therapy, like we have to establish some safety and a container and the safe space for our clients. we have to feel safe before we can start being playful and creative and branching out.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I think this might be a good place to pause unless there was anything else you want to touch on or talk about.
No, I don't think so. I think generally, like, yeah, I think that's good.
Okay.
For now.
Okay. Yeah, for now. We might be back probably with the same hair color.
Yeah.
But consistency is key.
Yes.
So thank you for joining us. If you have any thoughts or struggle in your own therapist development or individual development as a human being, feel free to reach out to us, interact with us on whatever we post this on. You can follow us on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. And if you want to talk to either one of us, feel free to reach out. We'll have our contact information below. All right, take care and be yourself.